Welcome to the Beau Show. As you know, I focus a lot of my shows on Hollywood, in part because I come from the world of entertainment. And in my humble opinion, any artistic expression should uphold the basic rights of freedom of expression that we are blessed enough to enjoy in this country. Sadly, we've gotten to a point in our culture, this phase known as cancel culture, where the mobs have dictated things. They have ruined lives and careers just from sheer maliciousness. They've gone after Kevin Hart and successfully destroyed his chance to host the Oscars. They've even gone after Bill Maher, and to his credit, he has bounced back and shoved it back in their faces. As liberal as he is, he recognizes the cognitive dissonance of cancel culture and how eventually something that the left thinks it has as a trump card can actually be turned around and weaponized against them, such as what happened with major leftist donor Harvey Weinstein. The left didn't know how to handle that one because he was a major donor to Democrats, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, you name it, but they certainly cozied up to him. Then once Me Too became prevalent, they had to distance themselves from him. So today's subject is Chris Pratt, an actor who has starred in everything from Parks and Recreation to Guardians of the Galaxy as a Marvel hero. Now, according to information on Wikipedia, Pratt dropped out of community college halfway through the first semester. And after working as a discount ticket salesman and a daytime stripper, he ended up homeless in Maui, Hawaii, sleeping in a van and a tent on the beach. He told the publication The Independent, "It's a pretty awesome place to be homeless. We just drank and smoked weed and worked minimal hours, just enough to cover gas, food, and fishing supplies." He recalled listening to the Dr. Dre album 2001 daily, to the point where he knew every lyric. Years later, he rapped Eminem's verses from the song Forgot About Dre extemporaneously during an interview. During his time in Maui, he worked for the Christian missionary organization Jews for Jesus. And just keep that part in the back of your mind for the time being. We'll come back to that. When he was 19, while working as a waiter at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company in Maui, he was discovered by director and actress Rae Dawn Chong, who cast him in her directorial debut in a short horror film. He then went on to LA to have roles in the TV shows Everwood and The OC. He's gained and lost considerable weight for his various roles, from his role in Moneyball to 10 Years to Zero Dark 30. But it's not his weight that I want to focus on today. It's actually his religion and how that has played into his current roles, his decisions, his marriages, and the way audiences have viewed him. Pratt married actress Anna Faris in 2009, and they had a premature baby in 2012, which Pratt said really defined his faith in God after he and his wife prayed a lot. The couple divorced in 2017, and then Pratt married Katherine Schwarzenegger in 2019, and the couple have 2 daughters. Pratt was raised a Lutheran and describes himself now as a non-denominational Christian. As I mentioned earlier, he worked with a missionary group called Jews for Jesus. Now Pratt attends Zoe Church in Los Angeles, which is semi-affiliated with Hillsong Church, which has been criticized as anti-LGBTQ. So Pratt stated, quote, "It has recently been suggested that I belong to a church which hates a certain group of people and is infamously anti-LGBTQ. Nothing could be further from the truth. I go to a church that opens its doors to absolutely everyone," unquote. Now, it's Pratt's affiliation with Christianity and his church association and involvement that has created backlash from some fans of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. So in April of this year, a Twitter user named @TheMeganLodon tweeted, "Marvel, hear me out. Just replace him," with a picture of Patrick Wilson as a replacement for Pratt. This person, among others in the pre-Elon Musk Twitter pit, accused Pratt of being involved in a church that espouses gay conversion therapy. Guardians director James Gunn decided to chime in. He tweeted, quote, "For what? Because of your made-up, utterly false beliefs about him? For something that someone else told you about him that's not true? Chris Pratt would never be replaced as Star-Lord, but if he ever was, we would be all going with him." Another wonderful example of whiny tweeters implied that Pratt was part of a homophobic church and that Gunn would never replace Pratt because he was making him money. So James Gunn once again fired back. He tweeted this: "He isn't. I know the church he currently goes to. Do you?" The answer is you don't. But you heard from someone who heard from someone who heard from someone where he goes to church. So you decided, yeah, okay, I'll believe this terrible thing that I heard online about this celebrity. Point well taken. Gunn was fired by Disney in 2018 for allegedly inappropriate jokes he made on Twitter about 10 years ago. Pratt and his Guardians co-stars Dave Bautista and Zoe Saldana all lobbied for the director, who was then reinstated. So I think Gunn was already probably testy because he'd been let go by Disney as yet another victim of cancel culture for something that he said 10 years ago. And even though he got his job back, here the mob was again, this time going after the franchise's star, Chris Pratt. So I can understand why Gunn would be ready to stand up for his lead actor. But look at the way that this was presented. Number one, it came through Twitter, which heretofore has been the bastion of woke liberalism aimed at censoring conservative or traditional voices. And as long as the vitriol has come at the expense of someone they consider not marginalized, such as a straight, white male, it's been fine. Add Christian to that description, and you get the superfecta of prime targets. This is what I mean when I've said in the past that they think they're protecting the weak or the vulnerable, but in doing so, they embolden a new chapter of cyberbullying and rage. Think about the Uvalde shooter, Salvador Ramos. That is someone that they would claim to want to protect because he's weak and he's vulnerable and he's been bullied. But what good would protecting him do if his response was to retaliate with pure evil? I think that many of the safeguards that social media has tried to institute have actually had a regressive effect. It's like, if they can't attack me now, then I can go on the offensive because I've got backup. I think that more and more we've become a society that will look at a person's personal background as much as their professional background, and they'll try to reconcile those. So when we find offense with a person's private life, we then make judgments about their professional life. But here's where it's become twisted. Rather than just a person just not watching the offensive person or the actor or whatever, someone will try to take that person out through social media and try to launch a campaign. No, not a boycott, but an all-out assault intended to destroy that person's livelihood. Now, when you think of people like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein, they were committing crimes. It was worth it to raise awareness about them because this wasn't just a mere personal beef about their background, this was systematic abuse of women. It worked its way through the courts. But a beef you have with Kevin Hart, who said some things you disagree with, and then he apologized for it, but then he won't apologize again, you have to go after his career? You have to ruin him for the Oscars? You have to go after Dave Chappelle? He doesn't attack anyone, but they sure attack him, literally, physically. So with Chris Pratt, his mere affiliation with the church is what caused all this uproar. Not from what these tweeters knew, but what they thought they knew, as James Gunn points out. Someone told me that so-and-so and so-and-so. And that's interesting because Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and others said they want to root out disinformation. Well, why is it that they only root out certain types of information, like election interference and science-based information? Why do they censor stories about Hunter Biden that are actually true? They seem to have no problem allowing users to spread untruthful rumors. But Gunn makes another valid point when he retorted to this one user that the reason that he or she, sorry, I don't know the pronoun of the person we're talking about here, would be so willing to believe this about Chris Pratt is because of confirmation bias. You heard it, so it must be true. People are so lazy about finding out what is actually true and false. But if you're of a certain belief system, you'll just believe it blindly. Not only did Gunn defend Pratt, but Pratt also spoke out about it. And Pratt has also started Indivisible Pictures, which on Instagram he describes as, quote, "one nation under God, indivisible. Our mission statement is to create entertaining content focused on themes which will help to bridge the growing divide in our country and world. You know, make the world a better place. That one phrase, under God, will be a trigger to a lot of people, even though it's in our very Pledge of Allegiance. Some people don't like it. Everything I've read about Chris Pratt has been legitimate. He really cares for humanity. He has donated $1 million to underprivileged children who need glasses. He's donated to the neonatal unit of Cedars-Sinai Hospital due to having a premature baby, as well as the March of Dimes. He's given to hunger initiatives during the COVID pandemic with charities like Feed Thy Neighbor. So this is a guy that is putting his money where his mouth is. That's not enough for the Twitter trolls. They are so concerned about false narratives about his church affiliation that they want to tear him down and replace his role in Guardians of the Galaxy. Not for lack of talent or the way he portrays the role, but for a lack of wokeness. And even though Pratt is, for the most part, apolitical or nonpartisan, you still have people out there that are committed to his demise, all because of what might offend them. It's based on potential offense, not actual offense.